Good morning, friends. Pushing all the buttons today, getting it set. Thank you for joining us. Mark, whenever you're ready.
All my life's a circle, sunrise and sundown. The moon rolls through the nighttime till the daybreak comes around. All my life's a circle, I can't tell you why. The seasons spinning round again, the years keep rolling by. Seems like I've been here before, can't remember when. But I've got this funny feeling that we'll all be together again. And no straight lines make up my life, 'cause all my roads have bends. There's no clear-cut beginning, so far no dead end. It's all my life's a circle, sunrise and sundown. The moon rolls through the nighttime till the daybreak comes around. All my life's a circle, I can't tell you why. The seasons spinning round again, the years keep rolling by. Seasons spinning round again, the years keep rolling by.
One year in, friend, and I can't tell you how many times I continue to forget to unmute myself. Please join me in a breath. Allow that breath to welcome in this moment. Allow that breath to welcome in this moment. As we allow the moment into our consciousness and allow ourselves into the moment, we find that all of those thoughts that were in our minds and active and rolling and spinning fall away. We can't attend to those when we're attending to the moment. Those thoughts to do with the past, with the future, with something just out of reach, all of that begins to fall away and we settle into now. We settle into now. Each Sunday we begin with that breath, and each Sunday I kindle some sort of flame. Kindle some sort of flame. I say that literally about this candle that I'm lighting this Sunday, and I say it figuratively, hoping that every Sunday some flame is kindled in you by this time that we're together, this time where we are sharing. It's a flame that sometimes is kindled maybe by something I've said, oftentimes, and maybe even more often, something someone else says to you, or by something you say to them. That's how it works. That's how it works. And so I'm glad you were here this morning for that, starting your week with the church within, or maybe ending last week. Depends on how you see it. For me, this is the beginning. Yesterday was the first day of spring. Many of you will likely know the spring equinox. It's a balancing point day. A balancing point day. The day and the night are equal or almost such. Today we'll be discussing courage, what that word means, what it draws us to. It is good and well. It is good and well that we should do so at this balancing point moment of the year. It is good and well that we should do it at this balancing point of the year because sometimes courage, without consideration, without balance, draws us into the fray too quickly. Or the very idea of courage makes us draw back. draw back from what could be if we would participate in it fully. Today, imagine yourself on the precipice of what has been and what will be. That's what the moment always is. That's what the moment always is. Imagine yourself on that precipice, perfectly and nimbly balanced in the now. In my mind, I see a ballet dancer balanced on one toe, on a tiny mountain peak, the other foot pressed into the thigh of that supporting leg, their entire torso rising up as their spine extends toward the sky, their arms extended above them, shoulders still relaxed, hands, palms parallel, their eyes looking toward the sky above them, on their face a gentle smile like a yoga pose, the tree pose, balanced on that one toe, perfectly, courageously balanced. Let's breathe together again. We breathe together, allowing the exhilaration of that experience to move through our bodies. Allowing that exhilaration that the experience would offer to open our hearts just now. We allow that exhilaration to open our hearts just now so that we might be reminded there is in that space refuge. There is in that space refuge. Breathe. As we allow that exhilaration to move through our body, let us take a moment to see who it is that we've gathered with today. Whether you do that in the chat here on Zoom or in the comments thread on Facebook Live, I want you to take a moment to share something beautiful that you witnessed this week. Something beautiful that you saw, whether it was a thing or a happening or a situation or something beautiful. And I will tell you that for me, that beautiful thing is that the daffodils have opened in our backyard, right on cue for the spring holiday. And noticing that was a beauty, and noticing it without having noticed that the daffodils had emerged was also a beauty. It was a wonderful surprise. So let's take a moment to greet each other with beauty. As you continue to share with each other the beauty that you've noticed, beauty that you have experienced. I, of course, love that moment, that sunshine on the face moment. It's so warm. Yesterday I was walking the dog and had my hood up and thought that was a silly choice and took it down, and it was so wonderful to feel that warmth on my scalp. As you continue to do that, Rosemary, we can both love the daffodils, thankfully. Thankfully. I figure a lot of us must be seeing daffodils right now. It's the time for it. It's the time for it. David Barnard has just shared the clock this morning showing that he had slept over 8 hours. So Frank got me a Fitbit for Christmas that reports on the quality of my sleep, and I'm not certain that it's a positive that I now have a score to my sleep, and I'm like, oh, well, I didn't do very well, or oh my gosh, I've won at sleeping today. Just, another metric for me to concern myself with. As you continue to share beauty, I'm going to offer just a couple of announcements as reminders. One is that the Unpacking for the Hill event is today. It's from 3 to 4:30. We have, in our Zoom will hold 100 people. Very strange to think about it having a capacity, but the capacity is 100. And we have sold about 170 sold. They were free. We've sold for free 170 tickets. So if you're already registered for that, you'll have seen the email, I presume, that says get there early. And the reason is that evidently about half the folks who RSVP for a thing don't actually go to the thing, which I can't fathom because I do what I say. Because of organizing events, I'm like, well, I can't let that person think I'm going to be there if I'm not going to be there. So it was suggested that we just like raise the limit, knowing. If you don't get into the Zoom early enough, which I think you'll have the chance to get into the waiting room probably 10 minutes before, it'll be on Facebook Live. It'll be on Facebook Live. And if you are just not intending to participate in the breakout rooms, which is a very valid choice, it's going to be a challenging conversation if we do it well. And if you don't really feel up to having that challenging conversation with strangers today, I get it. Go to Facebook Live. Just like you would here, just go to the Church Within's Facebook page and the live video will show up there and you can watch from there. And if you do that, what I hope you'll do is invite some friends who you would like to have conversation with to join you in that, so that you can dialogue about the poem, about Amanda Gorman's poem, the way the folks in the breakout rooms will do. So again, it is from 3:30 to 4 o'clock today. You're also going to see some links popping up from today's Zoom master, Sharon Aldsteer, that'll have my Calendly link. So if you're interested in getting coffee, you can schedule with that. And by getting coffee, I mean like bring your own coffee in front of your computer and we'll look at each other just like we are now. So those are virtual get-togethers. She's also going to share a link to my bookshop.org list, which is, I don't know, a funny thing that I've done, funny to me thing that I've done, which is create just a reading list of books that I have dived into or dive into again and again. Because folks have been asking, like, Darren, what was that book again? And will you make a list? And this will finally a way emerge to do it easily. I will update it periodically as I think of more books, but that is there. Tuesday Night Touchpoint, every Tuesday from 7 to 8. Also on the Facebook page, links for that and all the other things that I've mentioned also come out in the weekly email. And then the last thing I'm going to share with you was shared in the chat at the beginning of the morning, but as folks come in, they can't see the chat that already happened. And that is that the women's chorus is having a 1 week long fundraiser that is a silent auction. That I wish I didn't know about, because as I was looking for the link and clicked on it, I saw a thing I'm going to have to bid on, because I just need to. 3 to 4:30. Did I give 2 different times? It's 3 to 4:30 for Unpacking the Hill. So the link for the silent auction is there. Jane and I had a good conversation this morning, because I've been questioning in all of our relationships organizationally, like where are we actually relating, and what I didn't know and what I want you to know, because you might be wondering what is this about. The women's chorus shares our stuff within the chorus, within their kind of support folks, our stuff being like events like the Unpacking the Hill event. So organizational relationships are an important thing for me, because so much of the world who aren't part of congregations see churches as something to be consumed. And we just, I don't know, I don't want to get eaten alive. We're a small group of people doing way more than we should for our size, you know, within logically speaking. And so like I want you to know about that relationship, as even I'm learning more and more about how that is a reciprocal relationship. And the conversation to get to that knowing was a courageous conversation. So on a very meta level, courageous heart conversation happens all the time and gets us to new places and new understanding. And so much is happening, even while we feel like life is on hold. Even as we feel like life is on hold, it is not. One of the things that is happening was, witness to you right here, which is it seems like, if you're not looking at chat, like what keeps interrupting him? And it's that I'm looking at what's happening in the chat, and that's so different than when we used to be in the building, right? Because I would be on that stage kind of lifted, which has always felt very strange but makes sense for seeing. And there's a wall there, and we're not a congregation that talks toward that wall, right? It feels like a one-way communication. And the further we are into this time of virtual service, the more uncomfortable I've begun to feel with that model, because we're not seeing each other elsewise. It was kind of okay for an hour of our probably 2.5 hours together on Sunday mornings when we were building church in person. Now we're together for 45 minutes to an hour, and it's almost all just me telling you things and encouraging you to talk to each other and connect with each other so that that kinship stays knitted together. And I'm not always sure it's happening. So, just like last week, this morning during the message, I'm going to invite you to share. And I'm going to continue to work on that, which is a new model for me as much as it is for you, because this is the way we build church together in this venue, in this two-dimensional venue that is really so many more dimensions. So we show up with something to share and with something to receive, and that's how we continue to find ways to thrive in the midst of it all. And so be ready for me to ask this morning. Be ready to share, even if it makes you feel a little of that. You don't have to come on screen. You don't have to use your mic. You can use the chat. I'm keeping an eye on it. I want us to be who we are together as best we can when together looks different. Takes a bit of courage. Let's take another breath. Let's allow ourselves to move into a time of meditation and prayer, first with music from Mark Proctor and then words from Reverend Karen Godfrey Choate.
Love is patient, love is kind, slow to anger you will find. Grace God gives to you and me. It's unselfish to a fault, can't be parted for a fault. Grace God gives for all eternity. Life throws us curves and roadblocks, hard times knock us to the rocks. We pick ourselves up time after time, asking, please God, give us a sign. Love is patient, love is kind, slow to anger you will find. It's a grace God gives to you and me. It's unselfish to a fault, can't be parted for a fault. It's a grace God gives for all eternity. It's a grace God gives for all eternity.
Good morning. The Church Within, we use this sacred time to create a space for stillness, time to connect with our inner wisdom and with spirit, knowing we are welcomed with open arms and loving energy. Knowing also, no matter how challenging it feels as we sit and maybe thinking, am I doing this right? Why don't I feel anything? Just know by sitting in stillness with our intentional breath, we do strength connection with our heart and with our inner guidance. To begin with, find a comfortable position and turn your attention to the inside of your body. If you are comfortable, close your eyes or focus your vision somewhere in your environment. Take a nice, full, cleansing breath and breathe it out as fully and completely as you can. And again, a slow, even, full breath. Exhaling full as you comfortably can. As you continue breath, see if you can sense where you feel your center. Feel your breath. Send warm energy to any parts of you that are tense or tight, releasing the tension with your exhale. More and more, you may feel safe and comfortable, more relaxed, with a friendly but detached awareness. And now we breathe. We end this meditation with a prayer from the Way of Mastery, a guidance from Jesus. I am loved, I am loving, and I am lovable forever. This is the truth that sets us free. I am that I am. Our awareness knows no limitation, and all worlds arise within us. We are that mind that present in all beings when they ascend the staircase in truth that is true. Here is perfect peace. Here is the recognition that nothing is lacking. Here is the embrace of the fulfillment of the love we have sought in all the wrong places. Here alone do we abide. Here alone remain. I am that one existing before the world. This alone is the truth about us. At the Church Within, we have a strong prayer ministry. There's a link in the Zoom chat from Sharon on how to access it. And you can also go to thechurchwithin.org website. And there's a prayer team ready and willing to pray for your request. Thank you.
Let us, for a moment, revisit that image I described at the start of the morning. That image, that idea, that holding in our mind of that mountain peak, clouds just below it, clouds just below it. Imagine the chill of that air. If you've been high in the mountains, you know what thin air feels like as you breathe it. And on that unimaginably small, tiny peak, that ballet dancer there balanced on one toe. Their other foot is pressed into the thigh of that supporting leg, like the tree pose from yoga. Their spine rises almost effortlessly, as if there were helium within them, drawing them up. Their arms are raised and hands reaching toward the sky, but palms parallel to each other as their gaze also follows their arms up, a gentle smile on their face. Imagine yourself in that pose, in that place. Can you? Can you even? Does it even feel possible to imagine? I mean, for me, and I will own this, like I can't even stand on my toe that way, let alone stand on my toe at the peak of a mountain above the cloud cover. I like the image and imagining myself for that very reason in the image as a beginning to a consideration of courage, because I know I couldn't literally do it. It's terrifying. It's terrifying to imagine. I'm incredibly afraid of heights. And so even being there is not on my to-do list, let alone being there and precariously balancing myself in a yoga pose. The thing that happens in the body, though, when we imagine something so terrifying long enough and with enough detail, is that the brain starts pushing those same chemicals into our body as if we were about to attempt it. And so it's good. It's good that we should let that into our consideration of courage. This stance on that peak, imagine it long enough with yourself there, and it becomes exhilarating. And it brings with it an incredible sense, for me at least, of being anchored, not precarious. The balance needed to accomplish such a feat would have to be so certain that should we get there, should we get to that place in that position, everything that so often seems so unwieldy would settle into place. And we would be set. When I close my eyes and let that feeling pervade my body and my being, I can easily imagine my heart opening like a flower, suddenly blossoming. I keep doing this same gesture when I consider it. Because that opening is important to me. It creates space. Coleman Barks translates a line from the poet Jalaluddin Rumi. What was said to the rose that made it open was said here in my heart. It's like that. Brene Brown writes this about courage. She tells us the root of the word courage is cor, the Latin word for heart. In one of its earliest forms, the word courage had a very different definition than it does today. Courage, she tells us, originally meant to speak one's mind by telling all one's heart. To speak one's mind by telling all one's heart. Over time, this definition has changed, and today, courage is more synonymous with being heroic. Heroics, she writes, is important, and we certainly need heroes. But I think we've lost touch with the idea that speaking honestly and openly about who we are, about what we're feeling, and about our experiences, good and bad, is the definition of courage. Speaking honestly and openly about who we are, about what we're feeling, and about our experiences, good and bad, is the definition of courage. Heroics, she says, is often about putting our life on the line. Ordinary courage is about putting our vulnerability on the line. In today's world, that's pretty extraordinary. Courage has been, of course, part of the theme for the year since the start of January, and I've been thinking about it since before January, and I've been talking about it a lot since January. In the time since I became aware that it was going to be that kind of mortar that held together the rest of the theme for the year, the idea of courage has been popping up everywhere. It's been popping up in my personal work. It's been popping up in the work of friends and colleagues, and in ways that I wouldn't have expected. This happens sometimes as if something like courage itself is on the ethers. it's on the ethers, and a lot of people who look in that direction or who can't avoid feeling what is happening there on that level of consciousness start talking about it or thinking about it or working on it. It's as if it's some sort of connective tissue that holds us all together. Most recently, this word has come up for me in a workshop series that I am participating in, put on by an old friend of mine, an amazing human, Jess Weiner. If you are familiar with Dove's Real Beauty campaign, you know Jess Weiner's work. If you happen to have noticed over the last number of years that Barbie now comes in shapes and sizes and forms that look like actual real humans, and that sometimes move around like actual real humans in chairs with wheels or with, that's Jess Weiner's work as well. That's Jess Weiner's work as well. Knowing all of this about her, I still chose to sign up for her workshop series about understanding better what success means and what it means for us. I don't know why I was willing to do that with this person who gets huge multinational, multi-billion-dollar companies to not only change their marketing, but their manufacturing. Like, what a weird yes to offer to her, because there's no way you're going to engage her work without having some transformational experience. Jess's passion and her love are strong and demanding, and so I've been very excited and somewhat trepidatious about engaging this work. Last week, though, one of the video segments in the worksheet, she gives us worksheets, and if you've been coming to church for long, you know I love a good worksheet. One of the worksheets in the sessions was about courage, and I thought, great, got it, because I've been talking about this for months and thinking about it for months longer than that. So like, this will be a week off for me. I'm really looking forward to it. Incorrect. So this worksheet that Jess gave us around courage was an interview. And it was an interview we were to offer someone else, asking them these questions that I'm going to share with you. And first of all, I interviewed myself. Just a very weird choice for me, because I like to follow instructions. And unlike most of the folks in that workshop, I have all of you who I ask these kinds of questions to all the time, and we have really good conversations around them, and I'm going to ask you now. And for that moment, it felt very important for me, both personally and professionally, to really dive into these questions and what do I think, and am I doing the thing that I think? And so you'll see. So I'm going to share these questions with you all in one lump. You may have something come up that you want to share. If it comes up, share it. You'll be able to do so in the chat. You'll be able to do so by unmuting. I'm going to change that setting right now. If we get Zoom bombed, then we'll handle it. So these are the questions that Jess asked us to consider and to ask of others. How would you define courage? When have you felt courageous? Can you share a moment in your life when you were scared but chose to do anyway? When you were scared and chose to do something brave anyway? And how do you think courage shows up in your everyday life? How do you think courage shows up in your everyday life? So if any of that like has called forth some thought in you that you hadn't thought, or some response that you'd like to share, I would love it. I'm also jumping over to grab those questions so that I can copy and paste them for you. You can unmute yourself and share at will. And I'll tell you, while you're deciding what you're going to share, I'll tell you that possibly the most interesting of those questions for me is, how do you think courage shows up in your everyday life? How do you think courage shows up in your everyday life? All right. I came prepared. I came prepared for you not being willing to unmute. I see here in the chat, Jeffrey has shared courage is doing something that you know must be done even though it terrifies you. Amen. Karen has shared courage showed up when I started grad school in my 50s, starting over in a new career and focus. Double amen. Double amen. When I see those kinds of sharings, when I see people do them, when I hear of it in a conversation, I do what I'm about to do now, which is this. I say thank you. Thank you to Karen for doing that thing, for taking that leap that must have felt terrifying, right? Especially in a society and a culture that's like, aren't you a little old to be going? No, no, I'm not. Like, I'm only 50. How long do you think I'm going to be here? I'm going to stay for a while, right? And so becoming that next version of yourself, that best next version. And Karen, if I'm right, that's when you decided to be an OT, an occupational therapist. No. No.
I was 28 years doing occupational therapy, and it was time to change.
Yeah.
And then I went to school to be a licensed clinical social worker, a therapist.
That's right. That's right. And so shifting skill sets to be able to be the kind of healer and supporter that you were next best meant to be, right? David Barnard says courage is letting people, it moved, is letting people see who I really am. I've seen you. I'm grateful for you willing to do that. For Ken, uncharted territory always. Rosemary, when I showed up when I moved to a new city in my late 60s, knowing no one, and now you know so many. Allison, I have not even read the whole statement, but I love the beginning because it's so true. In the moment, I did not feel courageous, but I realized afterward how courageous it was for me to have the strength to move on from a toxic work environment that had been breaking me down for many months. I am part of a wonderful team now and really enjoy my work. And then Melanie sharing, courage to me is doing something without knowing the outcome and being pushed outside of one's comfort zone. I felt courageous when I started my undergrad program, pregnant with my third child at the age of 21 and very poor, and the first person in my family to go to college. Thank you. Thank you for that. So thank you, each of you, for the courageous act that you took and for sharing it. Because I think the point of this kind of sharing is that it's contagious. It's contagious because other people don't know that they've been courageous all along, and then they read what you've shared and they're like, ah, of course. Ah, of course. And Marianne King shared. Marianne King has shared teaching kindergarten on Zoom, and I worry that we're very close from courageous to foolish, but you're doing it, so it's working out. Whoo. Kindergarten on Zoom. What a way to spend the day, Marianne. Thank you for that. Lisa Boyles has added, I think it takes courage to be myself every day. I think it takes courage to be myself every day. And as I'm aware of what that means in the world, Lisa Boyles is the founder and creator of the Rivoli Park Labyrinth and does all this incredible work. When we see the courage of others and when we realize, right, it may not seem courageous when we see them do it. We're like, well, of course they would do it. Like, of course they would. Like how, right? Of course Karen went to do that schooling that got her to the next, like, of course she would do that. Like it's, you know, I see her speak at church. I see her do all these things. Like it makes sense to me. We don't think it's courageous because we don't know what's happening behind the action. And when we realize it was a courageous act for them, then we know that they were balanced on that pinpoint precipice, but there was a chance they could have fallen and they might have never done it. And then the world would be left waiting. And then the world would be left waiting. I promise you, on the Near East Side, a lot of my neighbors never would have, I live very close to Lisa. A lot of our neighbors never would have known what a labyrinth was or had that experience if Lisa hadn't taken the steps to get a grant not just get it, but to apply for it and to use that money to build a space where people are experiencing peace in the midst of a neighborhood where we're very often, day and night, wondering, was that fireworks or gunshots? Like you don't even have, there's no adrenaline anymore. You're just like, seem fine.
And Darren, to add to that, I mean, and I'm welcoming everyone, even in the midst of a pandemic. We're going to go ahead and have World Labyrinth Day on May 1st. So, like I just putting that out there that, people can come at 1 o'clock and walk as one at 1 or throughout the world, and just what it takes, that internal dialogue that I have. Should I put myself out there? Should I put myself out there? I have that conversation with myself every single day, and I just go ahead and do it every day.
Right. And so you can bet the details will be coming out about that, right? And some of you might be thinking, is Darren upset? Like, is Darren worried about no, because I also know Lisa's going to be like, put your mask on, distance yourselves from each other. Let's have the wind blow our breath away. Like doing what we're doing while caring for others, not in, right? So probably going to put my feet on that labyrinth on May 1st. I had created a list of courageous acts that some of you have made, just in case you didn't share, and I'm going to leave off most of it, except the one where Sharon Oldsteer is doing our Zoom mastering work today and for the next couple of Sundays while Margie is unavailable, because her yes came to that request without really knowing what she was saying yes to or how to do it. And yet here we are having Zoom together. And I said to Sharon something that my husband somewhat famously in a very small circle said to Scott Lakin, which was, for thousands of years, people have had spiritual community without PowerPoint. If we don't have slides today, I bet we'll still be okay. And so that's what I told Sharon, like, I don't know, maybe we'll have slides, maybe we won't. If we don't, do you know what's going to be the most embarrassing part? That I can't recite those things without looking at the words, because I always look at the words. Courageous acts. Courageous acts. One of the courageous acts that is, I have to believe this, I have to trust, is shifting this world toward the healing that happens when we allow it to touch us, is that many of you find ways in that everyday courageous life you're living to speak up in the face of racist and sexist and homophobic and transphobic and misogynist and all of the things, all of the things that are harming those people we care about. And you've done so, I imagine, this very week. In a world where, and I say this knowing it's a bit incendiary, in a world, and also statistically true, in a world where white men continue to murder folks in mass shootings, especially when they're aiming that murder at folks who look different from them or who love differently than they love, or whatever threat they perceive in that moment. Black folks, Indigenous folks, people of color, LGBT community, women, speaking up in that way, in a small way, but a way that makes you feel a little uneasy and uncomfortable, might save a life. It might save a life. And it's courageous. It's courageous to do that. And it is heroic to find that willingness within yourself. A man whose name I will never allow in my mouth killed 8 people this week. 7 were women, 6 women of Asian descent. When we engage in this internal work, we empower ourselves to live more courageously. And if that's not true, I don't know why we engage in such internal work. And as we do it, I wonder what is the goal for us, and I wonder what challenge we are hoping to be able to face more than this one, where we're willing to speak up. I didn't know, as I often don't know, how best to honor these lives lost in this way. So much of it just like moves by us, right? The headlines change so quickly. So much loss, so much that it becomes like white noise, like our alarm that we ignore in the morning. This afternoon is the event I've created with Tatiana Rebel, A Mental Voice, and Aaron Kelly to dive into the poem by Amanda Gorman that Gorman recited at the inauguration. I mentioned it during the announcements. I sent an email out Friday and yesterday inviting folks who registered to attend the Zoom only if they were ready to have challenging conversations, because that's what success will look like for this event, is challenging conversation. The event itself is an exercise in courage, both the courage that means putting our vulnerability on the line and that of speaking our whole heart. The internal work we do empowers us to be able to face such conversations together. I can't stop thinking about what happened in Georgia and how those events, those losses, those deaths are part of the world we must let touch us if we are able to heal this world. And I can't stop thinking about how Amanda Gorman was stopped by the police because she looked suspicious only months after standing behind a microphone at the inauguration of the President of the United States, speaking her own personal, creative, courageous work into the population. She spoke those words into us. They moved us. Some of us, they moved in ways that made our heart grow larger, and you can trust that just like that may have been the experience for you. For others, the opposite was true. But they moved us. We see these things happen, and we speak up, or we see other people speak up, and we see a response that is still unfathomable to me. And so not all men, not all police, not all insert whoever it is that's being called out or called in for the behavior, those responses, especially to tragedies, are cowardly. They're a cowardly attempt to distance ourselves from people who look like us and who have done horrible things. We don't want to be associated with them. We don't want to be associated with them. I want to be very clear on this, because it is incredibly important. I heard someone share recently that she'd been bitten by a dog when she was 14. And now, 14 years later, even though she's experienced a lot of friendly dogs, she is still afraid of dogs. Like, it's just there, kind of tinge of fear that comes up for her around dogs because of that thing that happened. And she said, as it happens, I'm also afraid of bees. As are most people, she's pointed out. And she said, like most people, I was afraid of bees before I ever got stung by a bee. The chances of getting stung by a bee are ridiculously small, statistically speaking, but we all have that kind of, if we're not afraid, a bit of wariness, or if you're like me, you're like, oh, look at that bee on my hand. I don't always make great choices. But we know that threat is there. And she says, when I talk about being afraid of bees, no one ever defends the bees. No one ever defends the bees. And she says, even when I talk about my fear of dogs, people don't say, well, not all dogs are scary. They say, oh, you had that bad experience. Like, they understand that in her body is fear founded upon that wound that happened. If we want to live a courageous life, everyday life, not big acts of heroism, if we want to live our lives in a way that helps keep other people safe, from threats, we don't do so by trying to convince them that no threat exists. We look at what they are aiming at. We look where they are pointing our attention, and we put ourselves between them and that threat in some way. You might jump to a consideration immediately of a heroic act that you're not prepared for. Doing so is an avoidance of the courageous act. Most of us aren't going to find ourselves in a situation where we are suddenly going to have this moment where we could jump in front of a speeding bullet and save someone's life. It's not likely going to happen. Nearly all of us, though, have the opportunity to look at a friend and say, dude, that wasn't funny. You need to think about what you just said to her and then apologize. Friend, that person is your neighbor. Even if they live far away, I need you to talk with me about why you think that thing about them. Right? We have those opportunities, all of those opportunities. And nearly all of us can also grow our courageous ability to accept such feedback without losing our whole minds about having been corrected by someone. Offering and receiving that kind of real talk is a courageous act, and it takes work. It takes work. And if we're going to do it on a daily basis, we're going to have to get pretty used to being uncomfortable. Comfortable with our discomfort, maybe recognizing that just like that dancer on the peak of the mountain, rising up from pointed toe to upward gaze, we don't seek to look beyond the world to something else. We aim to see the world as it is, so that we might be able to love it into what it could be. I want you to hear those words again. We don't seek to look beyond the world to something else. We aim to see the world as it is so that we might be able to love it into what it could be. Along the way, wondrously, amazingly, miraculously, we too are loved into who we can be. And we become able to love ourselves as we are loved and as we learn to love others. What I know wholeheartedly is there is little more courageous than love. There is little more courageous than love. Let's take a breath. This world in which we live is made up of countless temporary expressions made up of immeasurable eternity. We love that which we call God by learning how to better love the world that is not God and is somehow still made up of the very stuff of God, or what we aim at with that word. We do the inner work so that we can recognize that truth in the moment. And as we grow through it, no storm can tip us from that mountain peak. That's how deeply anchored and balanced we are in this courageous life. Courage, though, is also doing what we know is ours to do, even when we feel that we fell off that mountaintop a long time ago. Courage isn't rooted in comfort. It doesn't feel like doing great things in the moment from our favorite comfortable chair. It feels like tippy toes all the time. Isn't that exhilarating? Isn't that exhilarating? I hope you'll spend some time considering your courageous life this week. Consider what you might need to let drop away to allow you to find that poise right now. What might you need to pick up or shift around in your priorities and your focus that will bring you balance again? Balance where it feels like it might be missing. What courageous act did you avoid last week that you might be able to engage this week? Are you willing to make it a courageous act of asking for what you need, for responding to someone else's need, for a hard conversation? Let's take a breath. I have a Rumi poem here that is about crying out. Cry out in your weakness is the first line. The reason that I chose this poem is because when I spend 15 or 17 minutes, however long it's been, talking about acting courageously in the world, we sometimes think, well, that's me doing for others, and I need to set aside my needs in that moment. Or we just feel so weak, so tired, so exhausted that we're like, well, he must mean someone else because I don't have any courage right now. I don't have any courage right now, and I'm going to share that with you. But I also want to share with you, especially for folks who either aren't looking at chat because of your device making it difficult, for the folks on Facebook, this poem from Carolyn Mace that Rosemary Bovelwood has shared. It says, Lord, grant me the wisdom to release what I must, and the courage to move into the unknown with faith that I will be shown my way every day. Grant me the wisdom to release what I must, and the courage to move into the unknown with faith that I will be shown my way every day. The poem from Rumi. Cry out in your weakness. Cry out in your weakness. A dragon was pulling a bear into its terrible mouth. A courageous man went and rescued the bear. There are such helpers in the world. There are such helpers in the world who rush to save anyone who cries out. Like mercy itself, they run toward the screaming, and they can't be bought off. If you were to ask one of those, why did you come so quickly? They would say, because I heard your helplessness. Where low land is, that's where water goes. All medicine ever wants is pain to cure. And don't just ask for one mercy, let them flood in. Let the sky open under your feet. Take the cotton out of your ears, the cotton of consolations, so you can hear the sphere music. Give your weakness to one who helps. Give your weakness to one who helps. Lord, grant me the wisdom to release what I must and the courage to move into the unknown with faith that I will be shown my way every day. Give your weakness to one who helps. Crying out loud and weeping are great resources. Crying out loud and weeping are great resources. A nursing mother, all she does is wait to hear her child. Just a little beginning whimper, and she's there. God created the child that is your wanting, so that it might cry out, so that the milk might come. Cry out. Don't be stolid and silent with your pain. Lament, and let the milk of loving flow into you. The hard rain and wind are ways the cloud has to take care of us. Be patient. Respond to every call that excites your spirit. Grant me the wisdom to release what I must and the courage to move into the unknown with faith that I will be shown my way every day. So it is. Amen.
Sometimes you think I can do anything. Sometimes you think, well, maybe not. Keep up a good front, even when you fear the worst. Fear can hold you back from giving all you got. So listen to your heart. You want to cry out. Listen to your heart when you feel the past. Listen to your heart. Love's what it's all about. Listen to your heart. Love will last and last. Life can be confusing, sometimes hard to bear. Hold up your head, be brave, as your life goes on. Remember that you are never really all alone. We're all heroes in our heart. Keep on keeping on. Listen to your heart. You want to cry out. Listen to your heart when you fear the past. Listen to your heart, love's what it's all about. Listen to your heart, love will last and last. Just listen to your heart. Just listen to your heart.
Listen to your heart. Listen to your heart. Core, courage, heart. I think maybe that is amongst the most courageous acts we can engage, is actually listening to that heart when it overrides what our mind might be telling us about the world, and the heart's like, look again. Look again, look through me and see. Listen to your heart. In just a moment, more than likely, we will see the offering prayer. And back in the day when we were in the building, right before the offering prayer, I would tell you a thing that we had done that was living this out in the world, and I'm going to do that today while you look at those words. We've had the opportunity this month to have food again from Society of St. Andrew of Indiana to take to No Questions Asked Food Pantry that's residing in the entirety of the church building right now. And so because my truck had a broken alternator, I've started renting a much larger truck and bringing about 2 or 3 times the number of boxes of food, which has been great. So instead of, I'm not going to tell you numbers, there's no reason. And the way that is unfolded in community is the first week, my friend Allison Becker was like, let me take care of that truck rental. And now this is a courageous act that I know is going to get me in trouble, is Rosemary Boba Wood then took care of 2 weeks of it. And then moving forward, Mary Wilson has said, hey, I want to help out with that truck. And so it's just another way that we as community are doing the work of this prayer in real time and in the world. And so I want it to be on your mind as we pray together, and please do so right out loud. Creator God, all that I am and all that I have comes from your limitless supply. I am an open and willing conduit through which your good flows. I share all that I have as you direct. Love, friendship, prosperity, peace, abundance, and joy are gifts that I share and receive. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, God. Amen. And let us move directly into the closing song and then into the closing prayer together. Again, right out loud where you are.
Help if I unmute. All people are holy, many times one God. All people are holy, only love is real. No matter who you are, no matter where you've been. Gather together, not the Spirit. All people are holy, many past one God. All bodies are holy, only love is real. Only love is real.
May the peace of God go before us into this glorious week, and may the peace remain wherever we have walked. Peace above us and below us. Peace to the right and to the left. Peace within and without. Peace in the face of everyone we meet. Peace in the words to everyone we greet. Amen. In just a moment, I will set up the breakout rooms. For now, I will say good morning and thank you to the folks on Facebook Live. I'm going to end that stream.